For this next level, I'll let live RCCH take over the commentary. I don't know how many pea shooter coneheads are gonna come, but yeah, I swear it's not gonna be good. Oh my god, are you kidding me? They count as one basic equivalent. You're kidding me. Yeah, well, but this level is beatable, contrary to what you may think. Now, you would say, no way, Jose, there's literally 4 conehead zombies first wave in nighttime. You're joking. The only way to kill 4 conehead pea shooter zombies first wave is to just protect one singular lane with a garlic at the start and line up all our sun production behind that garlic. We then sacrifice all our roof cleaners to simply not die first things first. How are you going to kill the rest of the zombies after all your roof cleaners are dead? Well, it's practically impossible to actually get any attackers on the board, so the solution is, once again, only using instant kills, but this level doesn't only have pea shooter conehead zombies. The long list includes catapult zombies, football zombies, gargantuars, and buckethead screen door squash zombies. Yep, those are also real in this mod. At least we now have a way to just survive the first few waves of the level deterministically. And then it all falls apart when football zombies roll in. They require 2 instant kills to die, causing major issues in us just using Doom Shroom because any football zombie incurs the need to spend an additional squash or potato mine. With this strategy, I was able to reliably get to the first flag every time and then immediately die to catapult zombies that move much faster. And I was not successful either. I then practiced over and over again, trying to optimize my early game as much as possible to plant my sun producers as quickly as I humanly can, and I was able to buy myself a whole extra row of sun producers. Unfortunately, this can only last me so long, as more and more football zombies pile onto the board and I just run out of instant kills to use against them. I tried using only one sun producer to save a slot, but that's not an option. If you don't use both sunflower and sunshroom, you won't make enough sun to plant a garlic as protection. And then someone in chat reminded me of a plant that I previously completely ignored. We don't need to spend 2 instant kills on football zombies because Hypno Shroom exists. Hypno Shroom is perfect for this since the only zombie that matters for us is the football zombies. It's the most cost efficient solution and also helps kill off the pea shooter zombies. And now we're making progress. With Hypno Shroom, we're actually saving sun and able to get a 3rd row of sun producers to complete our sun production setup to last the rest of the game. After setting up your 3rd row of sun producers, the real challenge begins. Now, it's time to use your instant kills the best you can and use them as efficiently as possible. It's the most skill testing level I've played yet, and even with previous experience playing Bruno Mode and Bruno Mode EX, this level presents the toughest challenge I've ever faced. You'll be tested to the best of your ability to use Ice Shroom and Blover as efficiently as possible to stall until Doom Shroom comes back from cooldown. Blover will be much more important compared to Ice Shroom because of their fast cooldown, allowing you to constantly plant it to indefinitely push zombies back as long as you have sun. Blover is the only way for you to not completely die against gargantuars since for obvious reasons, they can't be diverted to the open lanes without sunflowers. In the midst of all of this happening, you still have to deal with the buckethead screen door squash zombies. Previously we saw the zombie in regular Bruno Mode and Bruno Mode EX Night Roof. Of course, they are still impossible to kill, so you have to keep spending more flower pots against them to prevent yourself from losing too many sunflowers. The level at this point has become entirely just gargantuar spam. Your sun production is going to meet its demise, and it's time to really see if you got enough sun producers or not. If you run out of sun, that's it, and the game is over. It means that the early game was not played efficiently enough, so you have to try again and use instant kills more effectively. This level is by far the most ridiculous level so far, and good luck to you if you wish to attempt this dangerously difficult level. You can now see why the change for Doomshroom to full screen was necessary. I'm not going to bother you with more fails. This is the one I beat this level. There's not much more strategy I have to talk about here. My best advice is that it will have to be up to the player to adapt to this level and create effective solutions on the spot against these massive swarm of zombies. Now sit back and watch as I do some insane micromanaging to beat this level. And the last, the final wave. Now, watch out, since Doomshroom is not a free win on this level, so it isn't over yet. Especially when I see the newspaper zombie right here. Doomshroom. You outta here now? Okay, now what do you... Wait. No. You're... okay? So we need this. And then we need to somehow deal with the middle... Oh no. No. Oh wait, we got cherry bomb. Wait, no, we missed. You come back over here. Oh, come on, squash. Yes, let's go. What the heck was that? Oh my gosh. Okay, and then we just Doomshroom, and we win. Sayonara. We have Nimble Zombie Sprint, which takes place in the aquarium, a 5-lane level where the 3 middle lanes are water and it's nighttime. However, upon loading into the level, you can actually quite clearly see that the game is not sped up, so it isn't just a game in like a ridiculously fast speed, but something else. Well, first of which, the early game is pitifully easy. With only basic zombies and screen door zombies, just a single Doomshroom each lane is all we need to defend. At this point, the gimmick is so unnoticeable, I'll tell you what's going on here. Zombies get exponentially faster and faster over the course of the level. Now exactly how speedy do they get later? Keep watching to find out. However, the first noticeable speed boost happens after the first flag, where it's pretty clear that letterheads are now moving faster than usual. The threat of faster zombies is significant since Jack-in-the-Box zombies are here, which can now rush into your defense faster, which lets them blow up more plants at once. With Jack-in-the-Box zombies blowing up pretty much left, right, and center, it seems like this run is pretty dead. So, I tried again with the same loadout, but opting to go for multiple fume shrooms in the early game instead of a cattail to clear out basic zombies more easily. However, this level is in nighttime, so our economy is relatively weak going into the first flag, and I could not save up our cattail planter before getting overwhelmed by dolphin riders. Is there even a chance I can deal with these waves if my solution wasn't Doomshroom? And also, I don't even know if the zombies will eventually go faster than we can stall for Doomshroom to come back because, I mean, this is just a few waves past the first flag. Without cattails, it seems impossible to survive against letterheads due to their uniquely high health in comparison to everything else in this level. And by the way, this footage is not sped up. I tried again, this time with Tango Kelp. Walnuts were a bit too expensive to get up previously, so Tango Kelp should solve both our issues with Dolphin Riders and Letterheads. Well, the only issue is Tango Kelp would be useful if there weren't just 3 Jack-in-the-Box zombies coming at the same time, which we have yet to find a solution to deal with them. We survived a bit longer than we usually did, but this is still pretty horrendous. Once multiple Dolphin Riders are coming at once, there really is not much I can do to stop them. On top of that, the speed boost the zombies gain also impacts the speed at which Gargantuar smash and imps get thrown. Just look at how bad this already is before the second flag. The imp is thrown super fast and also eats extremely fast. Even with a fume shroom attacking it alongside cattail and an additional puff shroom to stall, we still die. What the heck? Since we can't defend off any Gargantuars using Fume Shroom and Cattail, we all know the only solution I can attempt next, which is using the modified variation of the dump strategy. This strategy lets us survive for longer thanks to blocking off Dolphin Riders finally to not let our stun production die. But the other problem is Jacks just explode our walls up every so often. The speed ramping also continues to accelerate after the second flag. At this point, Letterheads are moving so fast that an imitated Doomshroom can only just explode before we lose the game. Not only that, but the effectiveness of Ice Shroom and Blover will only continue to diminish when their slow effects aren't even bringing zombies back to their normal speed now. And guess what? The Gargantuars are now swinging their arms so fast that you can't even plant a Blover on top of them to push them back since they literally die before even activating. A fast reactive jalapeno saves our soul, but this is looking pretty bad because our stun reserve is now getting dangerously low, and we're forced to use Doomshroom again here. With both Doomshroom's seeds on cooldown, I scramble to use the last bit of my stun to use Ice Shroom and Blover to not lose against the Letterheads that are charging down the board. But obviously, Blover can't infinite stall Letterheads if they're moving 4 times faster than usual, so I lose pretty miserably here. The fact this level is in nighttime and forcing us to plant lily pads in 60% of the space just makes it so hard to get a strong enough economy to support the dump strategy properly. It's the same story again. Letterheads after the second flag just move too fast and we cannot stall them long enough with Ice Shroom and Blover to get back to our Doomshroom. Eventually, I got lucky and didn't get Letterheads to come in the second flag, so I survived longer than usual. But is this even a real strategy if we're just relying on luck to bail us out? There's only so much that I can do to stall out the zombies before our luck runs out. On top of that, we can't infinitely stall with tall nuts either with how fast our zombies are now eating. The best I can do is Blover to push back the Jacks before they explode our tall nuts, but that's just relying on luck even more since there's no way to tell when a Jack in the Box will explode. With a Letterhead coming in this next wave, it's clear at this point they are now faster than Chocolate Pogo zombies who would be in normal speed. Instant kills are the only solution against it when all other forms of damage are basically meaningless. On top of which, our instant usage has to be more precise than ever, with how fast the zombies are advancing in the ground lanes with nothing separating the zombies and the lawnmowers. With nothing back from cooldown, I'm just forced to start sacrificing the lawnmowers and pole cleaners now. I mean, there really isn't much else I can do to stop this. On top of that, the duration between each flag is also reducing over time, so even plants that stall for time cannot prevent the next waves from being sent in very quickly. And well, just look at how horrible this is. I mean, if we don't have enough instant kills, the only good solution to that is to bring something that generates more instant kills. Cop Cannon. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it was a downside to even use Cop Cannon in this case, since I only have enough sun to plant one of them at nighttime. If we can only get one of them, it's not really an advantage when we can just straight up use Cherry Bomb and Jalapeno in the 2 slots that we use for Cop Cannon instead. I tried my best to stop Letterheads from infiltrating too fast by using as many Blovers as possible as soon as the Letterhead enters the view of the board. But I can reassure you that it's impossible to stop them. And I just don't know how this level is meant to be possible if you can't kill the Letterhead in time. Which is why I thought of using Chompers. They have fast cooldown, so the scenario where we can't get an instant kill fast enough should no longer happen. That being said, Chomper doesn't really do anything else apart from handling letterheads because everything else is so dense. Eating up a Jack-in-the-Box zombie isn't even guaranteed when they're hidden in a crowd of zombies. However, we still definitely need to use Blover against Gargantuars because we've sacrificed an instant kill that can clean up Gargantuars to not die against letterheads now. Well, I thought that means that we should now use Marigold since we don't use Cherry Bomb or Jalapeno to clean up imps. Well, it would have been a good idea if the gimmick was different. Mistakes aside, there was one improvement I made to my strategy in this next attempt, which is placing chompers behind the tall nuts in the water, which helps deal with bald dolphin rider zombies. Previously, I just rely on Blover to push them away from my sun shrooms, but obviously the same amount of sun can just be invested into chompers that can do it for the entire level. This is another step towards getting more Blovers, because we still need more of them to slow down Gargantuars. But even with this improvement to allow us to use more Blovers, Gargantuars still make it through all the way because of how fast they move now. It's absolutely ridiculous. At this point, I realized I needed to utilize my space better. I first tried fitting in a few more sun shrooms just in the middle row, as those are safe from any Jack-in-the-Box explosions. I tried to expand the sun production, but the threat that I face against speedy Gargantuars and Jack-in-the-Box zombies are just too much for me to both defend and build at the same time. If we aren't going into the second flag with a strong enough economy, we will be stuck in a scenario just like every other one so far. One where we can only cling onto life to lose later on. And I'm just slowing the footage back down to normal speed to show how absurdly fast the Gargantuars are now moving. And there clearly is not enough resources going around for us to permastall everything. I mean, this is completely ridiculous. Making this level take place in nighttime just makes it completely impossible to get enough to defend against the infinite stream of Gargantuars. But then, I had a brilliant solution for us to save on the tremendous amounts of sun I'm spending to defend. Remember how Gargantuars can't spawn in lane 1 in non-survival levels? I can save a lot of sun on planting tall nuts if I just use fume shrooms on the top lane. The only zombies that can be there have very little health, making fume shrooms extremely good. And I would be correct. This lets me easily get 6 more sun shrooms than usual, which is what I've been looking for this entire time. Plus, now my Blover only needs to be used in the bottom. This strategy is so much absurdly better than the previous strategy. I max out more than 1000 sun by the second flag, and definitely allows me to keep planting Blover off cooldown now. For once, I finally thought that there was a way to beat this level using this extremely weird asymmetrical setup, thanks to finally gaining access to permastalling with Blover. Well, I thought I had a chance, up until I didn't. Despite me knowing what the best strategy for this level being, there is bound to be something that goes wrong with the execution of said strategy because of something I forgot to consider. That would be, to not use Doomshroom on where the tall nut needs to be planted, because, yeah. Can't stop a Jack-in-the-Box if I can't plant a tall nut. And even when I do get lucky and manage to set up all my attackers, that's not the same as being able to set up all the sun producers as needed in this level. Even just being slightly under the amount of sun shrooms we had previously can cost us the game with the lack of sun to keep permastalling the bottom lane. A lot of luck is also involved to hope that Jack-in-the-Box zombies don't impede our progress too often, or else we'd be stuck with a half-built economy and struggle to keep up with the pace. If you do happen to make it to the second flag with the defense that is needed to beat this level, just having that isn't quite enough. A surplus of reserve sun is needed to maintain permastalling. But I just said previously that this amount of sun shrooms is enough to keep up with the pace of the Gargantuars to let us keep pushing them back with Blovers. So what do I mean? Well, they aren't the only thing we need to spend sun on. Something like this, a random letterhead in the first lane and me not having enough to plant a Chomper is the death of us. If you don't have enough sun to immediately react to them, you're dead within 7 seconds of it appearing with how fast it moves. This scenario isn't a particular one-off thing. It's a constant threat to keep at the back of your mind, as simply having Doomshroom on cooldown makes you lose if you forget to plant a Chomper. On top of that, just having sun doesn't mean not having any skill issue moments. I simply forgot to use Ice Shroom before I planted my Doomshroom here, and it was an instantaneous death. I learn from my mistakes and start planning more about where I want to use my Doomshrooms on the board, making sure I am maximizing the space available for Sunshrooms. Keeping all the Doomshroom explosion at the 9th column allows me to safely have tall nuts on the 8th column. Meanwhile, we now have the correct setup to permastall Gargantuars. It was a very rough late game here, as I try to keep spamming Blover and Ice Stream to stall out the Gargantuars. At this point, it's all down to whether I have enough sun to do all of this. With so many Gargantuars piled up towards the end of this section, I eventually can no longer keep up and spam my lawnmower, but that's about all we need to get to the final wave. Using 2 Doomshrooms simultaneously guarantees us victory against everything the game can throw at us, and we've done it. This crazy level is finally over after several hours of attempts. Now, in this next level, oh boy, Go With The Flow is one of the most difficult levels in the entirety of Brunamodi X Plus, and you'll see why I say so when you see what the name means. Now, of course, I brought back the classic Wintermelon strategy, and I'll be using Tall Nuts and Cattails to defend the early game, starting with this Tall Nut to block off the basic zombie.
Oh my god! Oh jeez, oh my god!
Well, you saw that correctly. Every single zombie now no longer eats and instead pushes your plants backwards like the PvZ2 Punk zombie. If there's no space, the plant dies immediately. Obviously, we can't use Tall Nuts in this level because, well, it can't be eaten anyways. So, after I restarted, I thought about what I could use in this level instead, but wait. How are we even going to kill Snorkel zombies if they remain invulnerable the entire time since they only push and won't ever come out of the water to eat? Hold on. And we can't even block newspaper zombies! Well, folks, this is why this level is going to take 7 hours to beat. And no, I'm not kidding. 7 hours on just this one level alone. Prepare for the upcoming monstrosity. I first tried Colonel Pult to try and stop the newspaper zombies, but oh dear me, Colonel Pult sucks so much because it does like no damage at all. The only way to go about this is to hope newspaper zombies don't come too much, because practically almost every plant in the game activates the newspaper zombies rage mode. For instance, I can't even use Cattail here because, well, you can see for yourself. There's literally nothing that can stop the newspaper zombie. You can't block it, you can't use Melon Pulse because that breaks the newspaper, and Colonel Pulse sucks. Dear God. Colonel Pulse are too slow at doing damage. Melon Pulse don't work, so it's time to use Chomper. I mean, Chompers sure do prevent newspaper zombies from raging. Unfortunately, even with the buffs they've received, it's still not fast enough for a Chomper to have a chance to kill 2 newspaper zombies before it's just completely deleted by a zombie. However, it does seem to work better than Colonel Pulp because we get to control where we kill that newspaper zombie, and we get to make it to the first flag finally by using Chompers. Then comes the next problem in this level. Yup, as we expected earlier, since Snorkel zombies just need to stop for 1 frame to push a plant, there's literally no way to even stop them without instants. It doesn't look like Colonel Pulse are even close to effective enough for them since they move so fast in Brunamodi X Plus. Instants can solve them for now, but this level is a free flag level, so this is going to be even more ridiculous later when the stupidity continues. On top of contending with newspapers and snorkels that cannot be blocked, we also have bucketheads to deal with in this level, whose spongy ambushes are unpredictable as well. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad, so I can just keep using more blowers to stall out problematic lanes while we farm up sun to plant more chompers. That is, until... Using too many blowers will wear down the newspaper's health, so we can't even infinitely stall newspapers. Oh yeah, you thought we survived, but not that fast. If we can't stall newspaper zombies for long enough with blowers, I mean I might also try Spike Reed and Spike Rocks, right? They will handle the high density of newspapers, I think. Yeah, the problem is pretty clear. If we don't use Chomper, we just immediately die early game because newspapers can't be set on wave 1 and there's literally nothing else that can deal with them. Even with an extremely good start with triple bucketheads, the amount of sun does not help us defend any newspaper zombies. Okay, and this next strategy, I want to see if Starfruit could always attack in front of itself since it's always getting pushed back. Unfortunately, their targeting is horrible, so it just gets pushed back and never shoots even though it can hit the zombie in front of it. They also suck against newspaper zombies, but I suppose that's a given because we're using a straight shooting plant. We're back to using Chompers again, but this time with Ice Stream as support to hopefully give us some more time to let our Chompers finish following. Surprisingly though, just Chompers alone are able to beat the entire early game on their own thanks to the low density of zombies early in the level. Before the first light came, I went for a Cob Kitten, which will be pretty good in this level because we can control where and what it hits to avoid hitting newspaper zombies. Well, it went really well for us until I had a little bit of a skill issue. You see, I threw by using a squash on top of a newspaper zombie last time, so on my next run I make sure to not do that again. But oh boy, this is even worse than what just happened.
Yes! 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 No! No! No!
Alright, so I'm going to stop using squash this time, and I'm just going to use blowover for more stalling after the last 2 attempts, which were absolutely horrible, to say the least. The early game was extremely easy with chompers, always going well up until the first flag, with our only lawnmower loss so far was just a letterhead and looked like we were on track to win. Using blowover was an excellent choice because it allowed for newspaper manipulation to stop them from getting hit by our cob cannons or instant kills, giving us maximum control. We made it to the second flag with pretty good control over everything using blowover. Well, that is until I forgot to manipulate the newspaper zombie in 1 cob cannon shot, and well... This strategy isn't just something that can survive the early game guaranteed either. When too many small zombies instead of bucketheads show up like in this run, it's not feasible to defend. And if you want to know how we lose here, well... The next problem we have are dancing coneheads. The backup dancers they spawn are just awful for our chompers. A lot of the time, they can just demolish several chompers instantly. However, I find out in my next run that using a bunch of ice streams in the early game is the key to staying alive with a huge army of sunflowers in the back. I managed to afford my 3rd cob cannon soon after, and we were on pace to beat this level if I make no mistakes of lawnmowers gone from most lanes now. And here it comes, the first natural gargantuars. However, we have to deal with the massive amounts of newspaper zombies in the second lane first by the looks of it. Also, one minor detail I forgot about the Gargantuar's ability. Not only do Gargantuars have tremendous amounts of health to block our chompers from cleaning up newspaper zombies, their imps are also devastating to our defense. These imps can simply instantly kill whatever they land on, and this creates even more problems for us because if the imp lands on an expensive plant, we might as well restart. Additionally, the amount of zombies by the second flag is just way too much for chompers to deal with, and it's just no longer viable to manipulate zombie positions. There doesn't seem to be a good solution to all the problems all at once. Newspapers, snorkels, and gargantuars. What can we even do in this level that's going to beat everything? As the attempts go by, my experiments get wilder and wilder. I even try using split peak consistently, one of the worst plants in this mod to try to do damage because I'm just out of ideas. It really just doesn't quite do enough damage for what it's worth. Now I'm cooking, using twin sunflower to ramp to a cob cannon as fast as possible, without even bringing chomper this time, and well, it ends well. I then try using twin sunflower instead of blowover in the chomper double stalls loadout to try and make more stun instead of just stalling the zombies out for more cob cannons. But the funny thing I learned here wasn't twin sunflower being good or not, but rather one of the most important game mechanics in Brute Mode EX Plus that I hadn't encountered up until now. As I said in the last part of Brute Mode EX Plus, target zombies that are killed with a disintegrating instant kill while frozen by ice stream don't spawn in bungee ambush. But you see, this isn't quite relevant because the next wave immediately sent 2 more target zombies of course, and I literally just used my ice stream the wave previous. It's pretty unlucky that happened, and next run there were no issues with variance, and the sun inflow is actually accelerating much faster now with twin sunflower. Unfortunately, when we do have enough sun to afford more expensive plants, getting more than just 2 cob cannons isn't necessarily going to win because the problem is really just with the newspaper zombies hiding behind other hordes of zombies. There's just no way to separate them reliably to not hit them with our instant kills. On my next run, I decided to do a better job at protecting my cob cannons, so I put them all the way in the back and put my twin sunflowers in the 3rd column. The run was pretty good until I didn't notice a lone dancing conehead in the middle row, which walked right into my cob cannon. And I knew I lost for sure when I pushed my cob cannon. So the time for more cooking has arrived. If 4 cob cannons can't beat this level, then it's time to bring out the spikeweeds. Again? Not sure what I was thinking about doing here. Spikeweeds with cabbage pulp, chomper, and marigold. If this isn't a strategy from Ohio, I don't know what is. Then, I actually decided to try only using cabbage pulp as our attacking plant and using as much support as possible to let them output as much damage as I can. Now, yes, it sounds dumb. Why would I use cabbage pulp, a plant that does as much damage as pea shooter? Well, hear me out. They don't activate newspaper zombies and also target snorkel zombies. Plus, we don't lose that much if an imp ever lands on top of a cabbage pulp because it's cheap. They're also one of the most cost-efficient attackers because similar to pea shooters, every lob of cabbage makes a shoot faster by 1%, up to 50% faster. It's usually not used due to how space inefficient it is, but we're using it here thanks to its properties of being able to counter both snorkels and newspapers at the same time. The early game is actually very good, since Cabbage Pult spam with Lantern does in fact actually do quite well against bucketheads if supported with slowing plants like Blover. And oh my goodness, I don't know where Cabbage Pult has been my entire life as they completely melt through the waves extremely quickly. There's literally nothing that can make newspapers activate into rage mode unless we plant too many Blovers, and it doesn't seem to be a problem yet, as Ice Shrooms is good enough to stall. Very quickly, we melt through these waves like butter, and Gargantuars don't even make it that far in before they get wiped off the face of the lawn. With the second flag coming in already on the first try of using this strategy, this is certainly promising. Out of everything, somehow Cabbage Pult is the best plant in this level. However, I end up using too many Blovers, which angers the newspaper zombie, and that literally made me panic so much I panic dropped the jalapeno, which angers 2 more newspaper zombies. Pretty annoyingly, Cabbage Pults cannot stop newspaper zombies while they are enraged, similar to other catapults since newspapers move too fast, and we took a pretty big hit here. However, even when faced with hardship, we are able to reach the final wave, but look at how much stun I have. I barely have any to spare to use to stall out the strongest wave in the level. I use a jalapeno here in lane 2 because one Cabbage Pult cannot stop an imp. With that, that's the game. Wait. It was so close! The final wave in play, and the only thing separating us from winning and losing are the few lawnmowers that we lost to some mistakes early on. However, what I didn't know was just simply how difficult the final wave would be for us when we were using Cabbage Pult. Its density is just way too high, and even with a combination of support plants, it seems like that using Cabbage Pult is just not going to be a probable way to deal with the final wave. But I know that Cabbage Pult is good enough to beat everything up until then. So I just have to not make any mistakes, and not lose any lawnmowers to preserve them for the final wave. Easier said than done, of course, because on the next attempt, I make it to the final wave again, just to lose once again because of us running out of sun precisely here. It's just incredibly frustrating time and time again. The little mistakes that cost like a few sunflowers throughout the entire level stacks up to us just barely not beating the final wave. And mind you, so far I've only spent around 4 hours on attempts. Even with the right strategy that I've found for this level, I still continue to struggle for hours on end to try and beat this level. Like, sure, we can reliably get to the final wave, but that doesn't really mean anything since perma-stalling the Gargantuars don't mean anything if we can't kill them at the end of the level. We simply need to find a way to kill the zombies faster because right now, we're just stalling too much, so much so that we find ourselves in a really tough spot in the final wave. All of this is still not that bad though, in comparison to having to be wary of newspaper zombies because I can get a bit too reckless sometimes against them. Barring the super unlucky runs that cause us to lose early on, like to target zombies, I have developed new Plantern placements to make sure that we can survive later on in the level. This formation of Planterns evenly spreads out the damage more instead of concentrating Cabbage Pults in the top and bottom lanes, while sacrificing damage in the water. And that's fine, because there aren't Gargantuars in the water, so we can afford to lose some damage there. These little bits of optimizations really helps us get a bit further than before. It is unfortunate that I use a jalapeno in lane 5 to try and save my lawnmower, only for it to still be used anyways because there was a newspaper hiding in there. Remember the 125 sun loss, because every little bit of sun matters a ton in this level. This is because after this lawnmower being lost, that's literally the final wave of the level. And that's a W right there. All zombies only spawning in lanes of lawnmowers and pool cleaners. That means we have finally beaten this dreadful level after suffering for hours. Well, at least I thought so.
Oh my god. Hell no, man. No.
50 sun off having another jalapeno to beat this level. This is why I said that every sun matters, and something as idiotic as target zombie RNG can ruin the day even with the correct strategy. We're always so close, yet always so far from victory at the end of the day. At this point, I've played this level for 3 streams straight and still haven't beaten it despite already finding the correct strategy. The pure RNG involved in this is just ridiculous. Mind you, that's 6 hours straight of just playing this one level and also 2 hours of just using the same loadout over and over again, reaching the final wave more than 5 times and losing. On day 4 of trying to beat this level again, I had an early mishap with target zombies and also newspaper zombies, but okay. This is just a warm-up game here to dip my toes back into the water. 4 streams dedicated to just this one level alone is just so tiring, especially when you get to the point where you feel like you can do it, but RNG just has to say no and screw you over. The tilt really gets to me by this point, and I'm screwing up even my cherry bomb positioning. It's just a really bad negative feedback loop where more despair causes more tilt. But finally, we get to this run. I make it past the early game with ease by getting plant turns early and avoiding all bungee ambushes by using ice shrooms as well as getting a ton of sunflowers. We also luckily did not see many zombie variants from the first flag up until the second flag, with no pumpkin zombies showing up at all. Then, 2 Gargantuars show up in the bottom lane. I had to use 2 instant kills on them, or else the bottom lane would have certainly been dead, which unfortunately had the side effect of losing another lane instead. But that's fine. We still have time to recover from this from the second flag onwards here, and this is not looking too shabby so far. As you can also see, I'm now also using only 2 cabbage bolts in the top lane, because Gargantuars can't spawn in the first lane in non-survival levels, so I get to cut some costs. I keep using blowovers to keep the zombies at bay, being very careful to not activate newspaper zombies rage mode ever, and this is looking just fine for us here. The bottom lane isn't looking too good again with how many Gargantuars piled up, but we just need to stall this until the final wave to use our lawnmower. And of course, I couldn't do that. Now with almost no sign in reserve, it looks like this is going to be another loss in the books for us. But hold on a second, the final wave is coming in already. This is looking like it's actually going to be the run. Now we just need to beat the final wave and be extremely careful to not lose to a newspaper zombie. I thought I couldn't find a level more stupid than unsodded, but this has to be one of the contenders for the hardest levels in the entire game. Just absolutely astonishing. And that is it. No more mistakes to be made. We finally get it done in the stupid level, and we finally beat it after 4 days of straight trying this one level alone, and it's over. The next level is not quite as easy. Our old friend Unsodded is back again. In Unsodded, we can only plant in the 3 middle rows, but zombies come from all 5 rows. This means we need to defend against zombies using plants that can deal with zombies not in their own rows. In this mod's predecessor, Brutal Mode EX, I said that the version of Unsodded was the hardest level in PvZ history, taking 10 hours to beat. Well, I retract that statement because this one is. This level also took me 10 hours to beat, but I would consider this version much harder by a sizable margin, and I will explain later how the identical playtimes might not be so identical. I first tried Gatling P because after all, it was Gatling P that allowed me to beat Unsodded in Brutal Mode EX. It receives the similar treatment Repeater did, now firing diagonally as well. These diagonal shots will be able to kill off zombies in the side rows, as you can see by it killing the basic zombie here. Not only that, I can still use Doomshroom, which is even more reliable than ever in the fact that it targets the whole screen now, which easily clears away any bucketheads on the side rows. However, this doesn't take into account of football zombies on the side rows. Previously not in Unsodded, football zombies pose an entirely new threat to us because of their high health and fast speed. It has the health of a Gargantuar, meaning it won't die to Doomshroom, making it no longer a board wipe here. And one football zombie on the side row is all it takes to bring the setup down. Cob Cannon is the next plant that comes into mind, so we can use more explosives on the football zombies, since it's more cost efficient to use cobs instead of imitating Doomshrooms for, mind you, a 4th flag level. However, the space restriction makes Cob Cannon rather awkward. With only 3 rows to plant on, our sun production operates at 60% of what it normally is. We can very easily get past the early game, but each Cob Cannon progressively gets harder and harder to plant because of us having to dig up sunflowers to make space for them. Meanwhile, the zombies that get sent in increase linearly, so it's not proportional to the rate we can plant down Cob Cannons to deal with them. The amount of sunflowers we have remaining is only 10, which is an abysmal amount considering we are trying to plant the most expensive plant in the game right now. That's why I have Doomshroom as well to help out on extra firepower when I'm not planting more Cob Cannons yet. And yes, even though I was able to afford my 4th Cob Cannon eventually, at what cost? I lost all my tallness in the process, and now we have even less sunflowers to work with. Target zombies are also here because obviously, buckethead zombies, and it spawning a newspaper zombie marks the end. It needs 2 explosives to be killed, and we just don't have it. With space being a massive problem, twin sunflowers will have to come out and assist with this issue. I also brought an ice shroom since winter melon is impossible to afford anyways. However, the lack of sun later on didn't even come up as a problem because we had to deal with target zombie shenanigans first. 2 Gargantuars before the first light even comes, and that's about all it takes to ruin the entire attempt right here. It's quite the task to deal with them with one singular Cop Cannon. These 2 Gargantuars got me having to use so much stun that should have been needed to be defended early game, and not only that, I was still having to deal with everything else in the level. And right here, I learned my lesson about where to place Doomshroom in this level. Say hello to the Gatling P Zombie, which is also in this level. And this is why you can't plant Doomshrooms in the front, because they will straight up just die. I was able to recuperate from this mess of a situation, albeit being much further behind than my previous run as I only have 2 Cop Cannons. I had more sun production to help catch up. Very quickly, I was able to blitz my way to the second flag with 3 Cop Cannons intact, for now. The next problem arises again with the bucketed Gatling P Zombies. When in the unsodded lanes, it is extremely dangerous because it can just walk next to the Cop Cannon and shoot it down. We can't even use pumpkins to protect Cop Cannons. Cop Cannons certainly pack a punch but are completely indefensible, and that makes their price tag even more of a pain. With only 2 Cop Cannons left, this attempt is also completely lost. I tried the same strategy again, and it wasn't much more prettier than the last run. And again, the bucketed Gatling P Zombie simply walked next to the Cop Cannon and shot it down. And with only 1 Cop Cannon left, this run is just hopeless and just a matter of time when the ship sinks. So after then, Doomshroom and Imitator Doomshroom seems like a pretty good solution, right? Cheaper and also doesn't need any protection from Gatling P Zombies. I mean, this has got to be the solution, right? 1,200 sun going into the second flag, and we still have several of them planted in reserve. Plus, we don't even have to do any micromanagement now because it targets the entire screen for us. And well, that problem flew under the radar for me to realize. Nevertheless, I'm not going to let one little mishap that happened because of something unlucky to stop me from trying this again. I tried the Imitator Doomshroom strategy again, which worked for a while, and I even had several Doomshrooms stocked up in the back to help us deal with the football zombies. However, this strategy is quickly ruined after the second flag where football zombies or target zombies spawn basically every wave, requiring 2 Doomshrooms for every wave. Soon enough, I am just not able to catch up to the amount of football zombies getting sent, and that leads to my demise, even using the infamous Imitator Doomshroom strategy. Imitator Doomshroom, Gatling P, regular Cop Cannon strategies have all failed so far, so surely using garlics to maximize stun production will work, right? Basically, copy the dump strategy by using rows 2 and 4 only to push zombies to the side and the middle, allows to hoard a mass of sunflowers. This is actually extremely effective, as you can see. We already have 3 Cop Cannons going into the first flag, and we even have a 4th placed already very nicely after the first flag. At this rate, we're also affording a 5th Cop Cannon by the time the second flag is coming, and we are looking to be doing the best out of any strategy thus far, thanks to our efficient early game. 5 Cop Cannons. Surely this is enough to beat the level, right? Well, I'd be wrong. I highly underestimated the power of the target zombies in this level. Just look at how incredibly fast the integrity of our defense gets demolished within, what, 20 seconds? So the first one isn't that bad, but then in comes 2 more bungee ambushes, several pole vaulters, a ladder zombie, several other friends, a Doomshroom now. Okay, and then 2 more bungee ambushes. Oh hey look, a catapult zombie, several screen door zombies, and another flag zombie. And there goes all my sun, and there goes this entire setup. Time and time again, no matter what I try, target zombies are seemingly impossible to even defend because of how random they are and how simply stupid the things they can spawn are. And if they don't steamroll you in the early game, no matter how many twin sunflowers I can place down, really doesn't matter because after the second flag, there's just too many zombies. Bucketed Gatling P zombies are so oppressive, and basically no amount of tallnets I can place down is actually stopping them from outright wiping out all my defensive plans. And even with 5 Cop Cannons, I just get completely wiped off existence. With Cop Cannon strategies failing time and time, I decided to ditch Cop Cannons to try and make a strategy using another plant that can target the side rows instead, Starfruit. I'll be honest, and the first time using it was rather disappointing, returning not much greater results than what was achieved using Cop Cannons with an astounding 1 Starfruit placed. I tried supporting Starfruits with Winter Melons as a means for it to do more damage. However, we don't have infinite seed slots, so quickly the problem devolved into not having an instant kill. Having 3 slots taken up for the attackers, I didn't reserve one for instant kill like Doomshroom, which meant that 1 football zombie in the side row was once again the cause of my loss. I tried Starfruit again, and it was just not a very good option early on, especially without many of them. Football zombies are just kind of impossible to kill with Starfruits. How about Gloom Shroom? That definitely does enough damage. Plus, we can just use Magnet Shroom to remove the football helmet off the football zombie to make it easy to kill. It's what live chat said before I reminded them that you can't remove the helmet anymore. I tried again with Winter Melons and Cob Cannons, still to no avail. Especially because this setup just dies so quickly to the swarm of zombies after the second flag. There's just not even a chance we are even surviving right now. We haven't even seen the third flag yet, and we're supposed to survive for another 10 waves after that? Whatever I tried was just a failure. It boiled down to 3 things. Either you're dead to football zombies because of their high health, or you're dead to buckethead Gatling Pea zombies. And if both of those are not a problem, then the amount of bunchy ambushes that will spawn because of the lack of footballs or Gatling Pea zombies will be the cause of the demise. At this point, I'm desperate, so I'm trying the last method of attacking in the unsodded rows that I haven't tried yet, which is Free Peter. In comparison to Starfruit, Free Peters do significantly less in terms of cost efficiency per attack, but they have 100% uptime and always target the first zombie in the row. They actually did quite impressive for what I was expecting from them. At least the Free Peters actually managed to kill a football zombie, so it's at least better than Gatling Pea. Unfortunately, it just dies to a buckethead letterhead zombie right afterwards, so not much of an improvement. I tried Free Peter again. This time I elected to using Doomshroom instead of Torchwood and Cherry Bomb to help out the Free Peter in dealing with the side rows. Unfortunately, without Free Peters and a Planturn, they can't defend even a single football zombie, so we're going to have to find ways to get more of them into play to make this work. So what about Cob Cannon with Free Peter? A reusable instant kill against zombies to help lessen the amount of damage we need to do with Free Peter sounds reasonable. And in fact, it's quite reasonable. Just not as reasonable as stupid as this level is. Game decided to send all the football zombies into the top row for whatever reason here. At this point, I'm just restarting every game until I get a single bucket start, so I only need to spend 50 stun on a Potato Man on wave 1. Doing this will maximize the stun I can possibly get. And by restarting, I mean doing it repeatedly until the game sheds some luck on you, because even the restarting process takes a lot of time to get. In this case, I restarted the game 7 times before it gave me a single bucketed zombie as the first wave of the level. With about 20 seconds before the first wave even comes, we're talking about at least 2 minutes of just restarting before we can even get to the real part of the level that we want to play. And after I got my solo bucketed start, I got on my way to try this new loadout I came up with. Free Peter Planturn as damage, while imitating Doomshroom as well as blocking Gatling Pea zombies using walnuts and walnuts. This was actually very successful. After the second flag came, we didn't get obliterated like every other time because we had 2 wall plants to help block off the Zombotany piece. And moreover, Free Peters proved to be very good because it was able to clean up the half-health football zombies post Doomshroom, reducing the instant kills we're using. And for the first time in more than 30 attempts, we finally managed to see the text announcing the 3rd flag of the level. Unfortunately, it's still a loss thanks to the target zombie spawning a newspaper zombie in the first row, which we could not stop. With that previous strategy working out so well, I immediately tried more variations of the loadout, now using Blover instead of Walnut to help out against target zombie spawns. Unfortunately, I was quickly reminded by the bucketed Gatling Pea zombies why running Walnut allowed us to get the announcement off the 3rd flag. At this point, it had already been 4 hours and 20 minutes into the stream, so I decided not to give more attempts at Unsodded because I was immensely tired by now. In fact, I got so tired playing this level, I literally forgot to turn off my stream after it ended, and I had people watch me play Marvel Snap in the dark for literally 30 minutes straight. I only realized the livestream didn't end when someone pinged me on Discord that I was still live. Certainly a moment that every streamer would have encountered before. But am I still live? Wait, what? Guys, no, you guys didn't hear anything. Next stream, I was back again to try and beat Unsodded, but this time I had a strategy. One that I knew that would work. One that I saw on Bilibili, the Chinese version of YouTube. Someone there had managed to beat this using this loadout here. Sunflower, Twin Sunflower, Starfruit, Pumpkin, Umbrella Leaf, Planturn, Tonut, Cherry Bomb, Blover, and Potato Mine. Of course, when I saw that, I have to give this loadout a shot. The early game was actually pretty nice and easy with the Starfruits, but the problem was apparent immediately. Without enough Starfruits, it just isn't possible to deal enough damage against football zombies on the unsodded lanes. However, I wasn't going to let that stop us right here. I decided to keep going strong with this loadout that I knew was a solution to this terrible level, so I kept trying. Unfortunately, the game sometimes isn't so kind when it comes to Jack-in-the-Box Zombies RNG. So I tried again. This time, we did fine as I had managed to garner 8 starfruits instead of 6 under a planter this time, so I thought that was going to be enough to deal with the footballs. Unfortunately, 8 starfruits under a planter is barely not enough as the football zombie survives with its arm fallen off, meaning it is at critical HP where we can almost kill it. Just not quite easy for me to kill apparently. Next attempt, I was actually doing quite well and going strong. Not all my tall nuts are quite dead, but my starfruits are still protected because of the pumpkins I placed earlier. So I thought we were getting closer and closer to beating this level. That is, until of course the target zombie came along and dropped this on me. Catapult zombies, if you remember, have infinite HP until all their basketballs run out or we kill it with an instant kill. Unfortunately, my cherry bomb at this moment is on cooldown and very far from being back. So there's literally nothing I could do except watch it roll into my house as my hopes of even seeing the first line get ruined again. If you thought that was a one-time offense, nope. Somehow, back-to-back runs in this level, I managed to get another catapult zombie. Thankfully, I had cherry bomb this time. The unfortunate part is that there was a football zombie on the top row and I couldn't stop it because I had to use the cherry bomb on the catapult zombie. And by this point, I think you get the memo. I have to keep trying this level until I was able to beat it with this loadout, and I was really not going to give up as I stayed strong and tried over and over again. I basically used this loadout for the rest of the stream, except for 5 attempts where I tried using Spike Wicket and Spike Rock instead, which were foiled instantly by Jack-in-the-Box zombies. I tried over and over again with not much success to beat this hell of a level. Even with a loadout that I knew was capable of beating this level, I was not able to replicate the success. This setup is simply not reliable enough for a variety of reasons, including how the RNG of Jack-in-the-Box zombies simply ruins the setup a lot of the times, as well as target zombie spawns which can still land on the 9th column. And to no avail, I ended the stream without succeeding in trying to beat this stupid level with starfruits. And yes, this stream was another 3-hour long stream, and the third flag hasn't even been seen yet. This amount of zombies is just purely ridiculous, and I don't even know what to say other than the level was designed in absolute hell. Okay, so 2 streams, and I still haven't beaten this level, so surely I will get this done in the third live stream of trying this, right? I don't know how, but I had the courage to somehow try this again with the same loadout that had failed me for 3 hours straight in the last stream. Yeah, not the foggiest idea I had yet. I'll just skip over the 20 minutes of time just wasted in trying a strategy that does not work. I tried literally everything that I thought of. Winter Melons of Gloom Shrooms. Unfortunately, I tested that and this combo just dies to Jack-in-the-Box zombies. Then, I tried imitating Ice Shroom for maximum stall to Doom Shroom everything all together. This strategy went straight to the ditch after a shovel zombie spawned from a target zombie, so yeah. I tried imitating Pumpkin instead of Tall Nuts several times so we could have extra explosives to counter the hordes of zombies. Kind of makes sense against football zombies, right? These attempts were just futile because pumpkins were so much less cost efficient than Tall Nuts. We had to replant pumpkins much more often, leading to less starfruits. Walnuts are getting brought out. Literally every strategy you could think of, I've tried in this level, except for the working one. It is actually so frustrating that even after 3 streams, I'm still stuck. I got so mad on stream after another hour of trying to beat this level that I decided to quit trying to beat Unsodded and went over to play Big Time instead and ended the stream after that. Things were looking really bleak, as I was on my 4th stream of trying to beat Unsodded, and somehow after more than 80 attempts on this level, there's still something I haven't tried. This is the combo between Free Peter and Starfruits. Now, at first, this sounds like a ridiculous combo, because what would be the purpose of running both simultaneously? Surely, we should just choose one of them and it will be enough, right? Now, that was where I was wrong. These 2 plants actually supplement each other much better than I expected originally. Starfruit, albeit doing very high damage at a very low cost, is not very reliable because its shots can only hit a certain area of the map that is predetermined by the way it is planted. This makes them rather weak in the face of zombies like football zombies who can sneak past occasionally, causing those almost dead football zombies to need explosives to be answered. Free Peter is the direct opposite of that. Albeit having not much damage, Free Peters actually reliably hit the first zombie off the row as it is a straight shooters. Starfruits will help us chip down the massive health of football zombies but not kill them, which is where Free Peters come into the equation as it helps add reliable damage to the sides. Although this attempt has looked like a perfect run so far, unfortunately, one Ice Shroom Jack-in-the-Box zombie to mess up the timing of one Cherry Bomb was all that was needed to put an end to this run. I tried again with this fantastic strategy, and although not a perfect strategy, it was performing way better than just using free Peters or starfruits alone. With this setup, Jack-in-the-Box zombies actually don't explode up our walls very often thanks to free Peters who are directly killing any zombies in the crowd. What it does not prevent, however, is still the problem of bucketed Gatling P zombies. We've solved the problem of football zombies and Jack-in-the-Box zombies, so it's a matter of finding an answer now. After resetting about 4 more times due to some chokes and also bad early game spawns, I landed on this loadout using Doomshroom instead of Cherry Bomb and Blover. And I did not know this at the time I started this run, but this was the last time I was going to press the restart button in the menu. Not because I'm not going to lose again. In fact, I will. But because this is the last iteration of the unsodded loadout before I pulled out the assisting tools to deal with this level. For the first time in Brutal Mode Extended Universe series, I decided to put an end to this endless restarting and pointless RNG fest that has been hindering our progress thus far. This is when I finally pulled out safe scumming as a way to beat this level. Now, of course, safe scumming would be completely unenjoyable to watch if I did that every single wave. So I made a ground rule that I was only going to make checkpoints before each flag to make it a reasonable viewing experience, and also easier for me to edit the video for you guys. So I made a safe state before the second flag and got on my way to be unsodded. Our first task is to just see the third flag because, yes, astonishingly, we still haven't even seen it yet. This setup right here is already the max setup to beat the level as we cannot put more attackers without risking losing too much sun that is needed to plant tall nuts and pumpkins. My strategy here is pretty simple, just let this roll by itself and the only micromanagement being planting the tall nuts and pumpkins. Until a pumpkin zombie shows up, there is no need to plant a Doomshroom quite just yet, because we want to reserve the Doomshroom to just kill the pumpkin zombie. This is quite obviously because they are the only reason we haven't been able to kill the football zombies in the side rows thus far, throughout this entire level since they're getting healed. With that pumpkin zombie out of the way, now unfortunately a Jack-in-the-Box zombie exploded quite abruptly in the midst of this, so I lost several starfruits as well as all my other wall plants in this unfortunate sequence. However, I was able to recuperate as Doomshroom had already been off cooldown ready to be used. And as a miracle ensues, on my first try of using the safe state, I've made it to the third flag and actually see it with my own eyes for the first time in 10 hours of playing this level. I made a safe state right here to make sure that I have a checkpoint to return to, and now it appears that completing unsodded was very near in sight. I quickly wall up my starfruits to block off the Gatling P zombies, and we're only barely holding off the zombies here, scraping for every last inch of advantage. And after one desperation Doomshroom, it's pretty obvious that we don't have enough sun to recover from this mess, and it's yet another loss to Zombotany Ps. But it's fine, we can time travel back to the third flank here to attempt this once again. For those of you unfamiliar with safe scumming, the zombies that spawn post safe scumming remains the same, but we get a different attempt as they will spawn in different rows. This time, the Gatling P zombie was able to break through the tall nut in the middle row, so I was trying my best to stay alive, so I just used the Doomshroom out of instinct. Unfortunately, this caused several bungee ambushes to spawn, one of which spawns a catapult right on top of my umbrella leaf which completely destroyed the integrity of our defense. I reset again, and this time I Doomshroom as I tried to plant it again to stop a Gatling P zombie that has broke through in the fourth row this time, gets shot down before it exploded. After about 8 resets give or take, I figured that if I wanted to beat this level, I was going to have to get to the third flag with a better condition than just a barely standing wall of tall nuts. This was simply not going to cut it, so I time traveled back to the second flag again to attempt and play that section better than the first time. With this second attempt at the section post flag 2, again I let the setup roll itself, but this time I was more conscious with actively planting pumpkins to build a more integral defense. Right before a football can reach the end of the lawn, I managed to sneak in a Doomshroom in an empty row free, keeping us alive for a bit longer. But here comes trouble. Pumpkin zombie in free rows means they can pretty much never be killed, except I actually used my brain this time and planted a pumpkin for its on-death explosion. And after that, it was smooth sailing. Not anything else posed as a threat to us as we simply Doomshroom again, and this is the last wave before the third flag. With much more sun to work with, as well as tall nuts in all 3 rows, this was a much more promising look to beating unsodded finally after a treacherous journey. And indeed, this was going to be it, since I was able to plant pumpkins on top of my tall nuts to deal more damage to those hordes of zombies with the additional sun from playing better. As my defense gets fired down, it isn't looking great, but the extra pumpkins that I planted earlier from when I became more conscious of my pumpkin protection helps me stall just enough. These additional pumpkins were actually so game-changing, it let me lose my frontline tall nuts and still not be completely dead, and allowed me to stall just a bit more until I could get my tall nuts back from recharge. I managed to get through all of that without losing a single attacking plant, and this was it. I was recovering even and still holding off all the threats just by the slimmest of margins. And one more Doomshroom to wipe the board again there, and that's it. No more target zombies in sight, all Jack-in-the-Box zombies dead, nothing can go wrong from here on out. With that, that's the last wave before the final wave in sight, and this concludes this insanely difficult journey of trying to be unsodded on Brutal Mode EX+. Even though the save scumming had to be pulled out to beat this level, I am happy that the effective amount of save scumming that was used was just one single time on the second flag. Its Raiding Seeds is back, and once again, we have these zombies. You have absolutely no control over what plants you get during the level due to how the level was inherently designed, and you can't possibly survive the level if you get too many trash plants. What do I mean? Well, zombies like newspaper zombies are literally impossible to defend using a repeater since we always use walls to block them. Well, that's just a lawnmower, I suppose. Oh, but wait, in comes a football zombie, and it's impossible for us to protect our plants because we don't have a readily available instant kill. So yes, the entire level is an RNG fest without even first taking into account of how the different variants of each zombie often lead to your demise. So yes, I tried the level again, and very luckily, I actually got 3 tall nuts and a pumpkin to block off the newspaper zombies and football zombies in the ground. Hey look, it's a bungee zombie targeting a lily pad. Surely nothing will go wrong. That's what I mean when I'm talking about the RNG fest of the different variants. There was no way to prevent that from happening because the plants we get are completely random. If you like bungee zombies, here I present to you another pair of bungee zombies sent only a few waves after the incident of the Jack-in-the-Box bungee zombie.
It was at this moment that he knew.
Mind you, this level has 4 flags, and that was just between the first and second flag, so things will get much worse than just your entire defense dying in the blink of an eye. And it's not just the bungee zombies, it's just if a zombie requires a specific answer, like a football zombie comes early and you don't have the plant, you just lose. Plus, it's just so impossible to actually get a good defense against every zombie early on because you only have so many options, you end up just losing all your lawnmowers early. In addition, it's fog, so you never know what's under the fog that may instantly kill you because of some other thing you did. So, take a look at what happened here.
Wait, no.
The main culprit this level mainly being the newspaper zombie. If you don't get a tall nut or walnut to block it off, there's literally no chance any plant can kill it properly early on here. Not only that, but early game football zombies are essentially unkillable because on average, the plants in this game don't really do that much damage. And again, no walls, then you lose. What's worse is that the random assortment of crap you get includes things like Grave Buster. Like, really? Why would I want Grave Buster in a level with no pole vaulters? Oh, and again, this zombie. The absolute BS this level makes you go through is just immeasurable when compared to literally any other minigame in this mod. Newspaper zombies are just completely unfair. It's not one time, 2 times, it's literally almost every single time. Newspaper zombies are the reason why you lose. And what do you get to defend it? Ah, yes. I sure do love having 10 lily pads with no plants to plant on it. Oh, and it gets better from that. Screen door zombies in a level where you cannot choose what plants you get. So basically imagine trying to kill jester zombies with pea shooting plants. This is such great level design. If you thought those losses against newspaper zombies were funny enough, add it into the mix of whatever the hell this level is trying to make you do, we also have target zombies this level. Oh, and if you thought because you got tall nuts in the early game to survive newspaper zombies and you're safe from them, you would be wrong. Not even that saves you. And well, the game is never short of random garbage that manages to screw you over in this level in every way possible. You can get 0 attackers from the game and only get instant kills, so you literally stand no chance even against basic zombies because, well, all those lily pads sure do help you stay alive here. After about losing in 10 more different ways to newspaper zombies and football zombies, it was decided for my sanity to not endure the stupidity this level is. The answer was using safe scumming to beat this level, and it goes to show that this level might possibly be even harder than unsodded, as you'll see how long it took to beat this. Firstly, what is even considered good in this level? Well, there's many different ways you could call it start tier good because you have a virtually infinite amount of variation to choose from. Maybe you could call it a good start if you get 4 tall nuts, or 4 melon pulse. There's no real way to decide if those plants are necessarily good, but one thing is for sure. 2 planterns is probably the most optimal point to start from. Plantern, of course, doubles the attack speed of every plant around it. It's the most reasonable to assume that the difference this plant makes is basically making the game twice as easy to beat in the first place because each plant is twice as good. So, I decided to start from this point here, with 2 planterns to start from before the first flag. Again, we apply the same rules of safe scumming to this level just like in the last video. I'll only be using one single save state for each flag this level has, so it's easier to watch and understand. And immediately, off to not a great start, with no answer to this green door zombie here as we get a Grave Buster. Instantly rewarded for saving the game in the previous wave, because this run would have ended promptly if we didn't. To those who've never watched safe scumming before, safe scumming in PvZ requires the use of the File Explorer to reload the game in its previous state by inserting a copy of our old save file. The zombies that spawn will be exactly the same every time we reboot our save state, but the lanes in which they come in will change, as well as the plants we get from the sky. So yes, the screen door zombie will still spawn, but this time because we reloaded the level, the lane it spawns changes instead into the lane with a cabbage pole, allowing us to kill it. And in this run, since the Jack-in-the-Box zombie exploded down our walnuts, we lose to a football zombie. But no problem, we just reboot our old save file to get right back to where we were. And even with safe scumming, things are not looking great here. These football zombies are absolutely brutal, and even with our buffed up plants under Plantern, we can't whittle down their massive health. Well, isn't this just beautiful now? 4 football zombies crammed into one row, and I'm supposed to deal with this. If you think that safe scumming will trivialize the level, it only reduces the time I am personally spending to beat this level, so I don't need to replay the level entirely whenever I lose. I am still losing a lot of times to even get to the end, and the game is just absolutely ridiculous at times when you look at the amount of newspaper zombies and football zombies getting sent. After about 10 attempts, there was finally a run where I managed to plant down 4 toilets in the ground lanes to finally grant ourselves permanent newspaper zombie protection. And understandably so, these tallnuts are good enough to let us make it to the next flag in the level, as we have an assortment of just random junk next to our planterns. Do note that the ground lanes need to be much heavily defended compared to the water lanes, as there are no dolphin riders or even snorkel zombies this level. You can get away in the water with just a split pea. I'll make a safe state before the second flag to start beating this section of this level with a pretty nice setup of 4 tallnuts. And immediately, this happens. Well, not every attempt will look like that, but it's mostly a question of whether your defensive wall plants stay up or not. As long as the tallnuts remain alive and not get exploded by Jack-in-the-Box zombies, I can pretty confidently tell you that the attacking plants will take care of business. Now, on our second attempt of playing this safe state, I was already able to make it to the first flag of the level relatively easily, but no, this defense is half busted with no tallnuts in the bottom. So naturally, I made another safe state here and tried to beat this level's last 10 waves with this setup, but without wall plants at the bottom, it's just very improbable to live against newspapers. Not only that, the density of zombies is so high to the point they're outright eating our tallnuts dead. Well, we have to replay this section again then, I suppose. Unfortunately, it's just not as simple as praying to RNGesus that we can beat this section by getting a few Doom Shrooms. The chances of that happening are astronomically low. Meanwhile, we are just getting completely crushed because of the amount of screen door zombies this level. Without a proper defensive wall plants, I realized that playing onwards from the safe state was not going to net any more new results other than defeat, so I went back to the second flag. I was determined to make it to the third flag with a full wall of tallnuts, so I kept trying and reloading into the second flag, to hopefully not die to Jack-in-the-Box zombies. And determined I was. I kept replaying this section of the level until I was happy about what I had ended up when going into the third flag, and it's just somehow doesn't work out some way or another every time I try. Catapults spawning by target zombies killing our plants, ladder zombies climbing over our tall nuts, even numerous occasions where Jack-in-the-Box zombies demolish our walls. You name it, I've seen it. The amount of RNG this level is just insane, and the amount of dedication someone has to put in even when save scumming is truly remarkable. After about 10 attempts again, I finally got an attempt where I felt happy about the result. 5 tallness as well as a third planter to help out in outputting damage. I knew that this was definitely a plausible board state to beat the level in. First attempt from the save state, and immediately, karma strikes yet again. It seems like the game just likes to send a zombie when it's the first time you're playing from a new save state. And again, I have to reset the save state back to the third flag, and this time we get yet another jack-in-the-box explosion on the upper half of the screen, demolishing our wall. Oh, but what makes this worse is that in the meantime, a target zombie activated, so there's a bungee ambush, and guess what? A ladder zombie in the bottom to climb over our tall nuts. And at this point, I think the game's just trolling me. And again, just why does it have to be jack-in-the-box zombies? Just like in Unsodded, it's always jack-in-the-box zombies, and they always find a way to ruin your life. Oh, and if you find this stupid, don't die to jack-in-the-box explosion simulator ends at strike 4, what if I told you... So yeah, even with save scumming, this level is just pure pain to deal with given the amount of stupidity you have to endure against jack-in-the-box zombies. Of course, this cycle of losing against them has to end at some point, and this is it. Just when I thought I was going to lose against the absolute horde of zombies, Lord Doomshroom falls from the heavens from above to save our ass against this menace. And then, when it looked like things were not going to be good as more jack-in-the-box zombies creeped up onto our tall nuts, now Goddess Ishroom descends from the heavens to save our ass yet again. Even nicer, a blowover just to push the jack-in-the-box away so it can't even explode our tall nuts. Actually just clutch here. And there's one jack-in-the-box zombie in the top row, and it barely sneaks past to the frontmost zombie so we can kill it just before it can have a chance to be protected and explode our defense. And guess what? That's the last wave before the final wave, and now we just need to survive the final wave of the level, and thankfully, the level is officially over from here on out. To finish it off, a Doomshroom and a Jalapeno to wipe everyone off the board. Absolutely insane. Win. How long did it take? Only 2 hours while save scumming. So realistically, you probably need to spend 10 hours without to win. Is it fair to say this is harder than Unsodded? Well, yeah, if you were going to try and beat this without save scumming, it would truly be designated a difficulty of near impossible. But we did it. And that's the 5 hardest levels in Brutal Mode EX Plus in my opinion. Subscribe for more modded PvZ, and I'll see you all next time.